Hold on. Now. So, good afternoon. My name is Clifford. I'm the director of the Division of Research and Optimal Patient Care at the American College of Surgeons, and welcome. 2019 is a very special year for a number of reasons, including a lot of things in the Quality and Safety Division at the American College of Surgeons as well. For example, we just launched the geriatric surgery verification, so let's have a round of applause for this. I will talk more about it, but I just wanted to bring this up as an example and kind of the lessons that we learned from there. And I've been told on a number of occasions from geriatricians about cognitive abilities, and but just how we should measure cognitive abilities, and that we do not do it enough. And so I thought I would take this opportunity to have us all, with a little introspection and self-awareness, measure our own cognitive abilities. And so I'm going to give you a 4-item recall that I want you all to remember. And it's only for yourself, so you don't have to share this whether you know this or not with your neighbor. But I'm going to give you 4 words, and put your cameras away. I'm going to give you 4 words, and then I want you to just remember these, and sometime during today or tomorrow or Monday, I'm going to ask you what these are. I tested this on our surgical oncologist back home, and he did not do well. So we got to kind of step it up. Ready? Heart. T. I. Koala. I was just in Australia. These words are a little harder. I gave him pencil, car, and orange. He didn't know them. All right. Put that away. So, 2019 is a very special anniversary. I think if you've been probably you haven't been walking a lot outside because of the weather, but you would probably see a lot of the things that are being celebrated. But it is a special anniversary. This year celebrates a real achievement. This achievement took vision. It took commitment by a whole team. It took numerical prowess. Numbers are very important in this. Clearly, accuracy had to be important. And the achievement is widespread. So, who knows what I'm talking about? Anybody? 3 people? Anyone know what I'm talking about? Bingo! 90 years ago, 40 years before we walked on the moon, bingo was invented. Edwin Lowe, a toy maker in New York City, put this game out, and he actually got the help of Carl Loeffler, who was a math professor at Columbia, to help figure out how do you make the cards with the numbers and not have too many people win at once. It was a magical feat of commitment, numerical prowess, and accuracy. And so this is a game that, as we can tell, as we know, that is in kindergartens, and is in retirement homes, and is in community centers, and is in everywhere, even casinos. It is one of the most common games in casinos. So bingo has advanced, and there are things like the get to know you bingo, where there are things like you meet somebody, they like to dance, they're the youngest person in their family, they never swear. That's not for this audience. And there's other things like this is what I do when I'm on conference calls, the conference call bingo. So you ask somebody, and I always do this, and I'm like, I'm not paying attention. Cliff, what do you think? And I'm like, oh God, what was it? And you come on and I was on mute. What? I was like, so animal noise. I know Dr. Hoyt, I was like, is that your dog in the background? I'm like, oh no, I'm at work. So there are things, and so we thought it would be great if we had the ACS Quality Conference Bingo Edition. And so would you like to see this? So we were thinking what would be good at the quality conference? What is the biggest quality thing that we hear, that we at the College of Surgeons, 80,000 members, 3,000 hospitals, what's the biggest thing that we hear at the conference that we can improve in quality? This. This is the number one thing we hear and we see in all the comments. It's in 73% of people. We were almost going to make this a free box. Everyone gets this as a freebie. Of course we couldn't, because when we piloted this with people, there's like, what's wrong with you? No, the room is just way too hot. And so, whatever. But if this is a quality conference, somebody mentions Codman. Dr. Matt Hutter, I don't know if you know Matt. Matt is the director of the Codman Center at Mass General. So if you go hear him talk, I'm sure he will say Codman at least once. Someone will say this, but my patients are sicker. Did we ever hear that? Someone is sleeping, and because we want to verify, because we're all about verification at the college, there has to be head bobs involved. You will hear this in my talk. This X is invariably going to come through. An attempt at a joke fails, so that happens. Anyway, now you can get out your camera. If you do this, and you can get bingo, and you shout at just whatever session you're in, if you shout out bingo, you will get this fine mug that says putting our patients first. It's not in your bag. It's only here if you win bingo. So with that, I'm not kidding. You get a mug. Welcome to the conference. We are really pleased that you're here. This is a very important conference to the College of Surgeons. The theme this year is putting our patients first. This was, when we look at the comments that we get back from everybody, and it is amazing to see that, and to see everyone write about how this changes what they do locally for taking care of patients, which is what we all want to do. So we're happy that you're here. I'd like to just provide a brief preview and some highlights. I have been known to talk a lot, and the over-under for this talk was 52 minutes, and the staff all bet over. But this is going to be a brief preview and some highlights, not all highlights. So the first thing I wanted to bring forth is that it's continuing to expand. This is the largest conference ever, the highest number of registration. It just keeps on going up, which is, I think, a testament to all of you and the work that you do and lead every day. So congratulations. We have the most number of sessions, and so we have the tracks, and I'll go through that in a bit, but within the tracks, we have the most number of sessions. We have the most number of speakers and moderators. We had the most number of abstracts that were submitted, and also expanding, thanks to Dr. Hoyt, who has allowed us, we've expanded the budget, so that's always good. We also have a new look and feel. For those of you who feel cold, you'll still feel cold. But the new look is really, this is the first time we've been in a convention center. So as many of you know, we've always tried to be in a hotel because of the cozy feeling, and nobody has to travel any place, and it's really all right there. We've run out of hotels that are possible for us to have this meeting in. We don't have enough space to have a room this large and enough of the breakout for the breakout session. So I think from this point forward, we are going to keep on having it in convention centers, and hopefully you will like this and give us feedback on what you thought was good and what you thought could be improved upon. Finally, while we aim to provide a terrific conference, conferences are not so slowly changing. If you think about going to whatever conference, a surgical conference, a nursing conference, other quality conferences, the environment is changing, and so conferences are changing. So if we think about conferences overall are changing, what is changing, or what are the things that are changing about conferences? So first of all, it's this. We all feel this every single day. The amount of knowledge is exponentially growing. So if we're going to a conference to learn, there is so much more. There's so many, probably more breakouts. You go to conferences, you can't choose amongst all the things that you want to see. It's kind of daunting. If you look at the amount of knowledge and the rate that it doubles, in 1950, the amount of knowledge used to double every 25 years. In the year 2000, about 20 years ago, it doubled every year. In this past year, they think it doubles within months. The amount of knowledge we have to take into our brains, in addition to the 4 words, doubles every few months. Now, if we look at medical knowledge, what is the time to double medical knowledge? Well, the time to double medical knowledge is decreasing. In 1950, it took 50 years to double the amount of medical knowledge available. Next year, it'll be 0.2 years. So the amount of knowledge that we just in our field is just daunting. Now, if knowledge is coming in and there's going to be increasingly more knowledge, what is the half-life? The half-life is the amount of time where half the knowledge is obsolete. So it was thought to be about 7 years. So if you went to school many years ago, decades ago, and you had to learn 100 medications, in about 7 years, 50 of them would be gone. There'd be a new one. It'd be obsolete. 7 years. Well, the half-life in last year or a couple years ago was about 2 years, and the projected half-life in 2021 is less than 3 months. So all this stuff we're taking in, it might not last, and it might be usurped by something different. So this is why conferences are changing. And we feel like this, and we feel like this. But we have some tips. We have polled the leaders of conferences and of education. We have our own education division with Dr. Sachdeva and all of our expert master educators. And so here are 6 tips for having a successful conference. And this is in all seriousness. This is not any more joking. Number 1, strategic, intelligent learning. So for the amount of information, for the amount of knowledge, for the amount of content there is, it's really important for us to differentiate between what we can get through our auxiliary brains, our phones, our through Googling, what we can get online and what we cannot get online. Because if we can get something online and we're kind of in a session and we're kind of figuring this out, we can do that at home. We can do that on the bus. We can do it on the plane ride home. We should differentiate between what is online and what is not online. And we should really focus on what's online. The second thing is this. For material that would be online, we still have to be aware that it exists. So there's always this model of you know what you know, you should know what you don't know. If we expand the amount we know we don't know, we can look that up later. We can find that later. Nowadays, when we round, like, what is this? And we just look it up we can know that later. So know what you know, you can expand what you don't know, and you could look it up later. At a conference, it's important to talk to the speakers. I know that when I talk to every session head and every track leader, that the speakers were chosen very, very purposefully because they're experts. Because not that they speak well and they make nice slides, which we hope they do both, but they are experts on the topic. They have experience that might not be online. They have things that might not be in an article, might not be on PubMed, might not be published, but that's what they're sharing with us at a conference. So after a session, go up and go talk to the speaker. You see the speaker at a reception, go talk to the speaker. We've made sure that they are going to be always very friendly. Also, something different. Everyone always wants to go talk to the speaker, and I just said go talk to the speaker. But talk to the moderator. As much attention as we pay to identifying great speakers, we have really thought long and hard about getting great moderators. And if you think about what the moderator does and what we ask them to do is that we want them to moderate the session, and we want them to obviously be able to read the sheet to introduce the speaker. But more than that, we have them understand the topic. We have them understand what each of the speakers are talking about. We have them understand how to put the things together. They have the overarching vision. So if you've ever seen a panel session and it finishes and everyone rushes up to go to the speakers and the moderator is just sitting there, I'm like, chopped liver? The moderator is absolutely not chopped liver. The moderator gets oftentimes the big picture of this whole thing. So it is very worthwhile to talk to the moderator. Meet many, many other people. So we always talk about this, but now we're going to be a little more, some process measures. Stick your hand out and say, not now, stick your hand out and say hi to the person next to you. Whether it's at a session, or you're standing in the lunch line, or at the reception, looking at a poster, waiting for the elevator, sweating outside, freezing inside, whatever it is, meet other people. This is what it's going to be, the connection after the meeting. When this meeting is over on Monday afternoon and y'all go home, you will have still those connections of people you meet. That's going to be as important probably as the content that you're seeing in the sessions. Finally, we want you to have fun, we want you to relax, and we want you to enjoy. So let me talk about some of the details about the conference, because there's a lot of things going on, and I want to highlight the way we tried to organize this conference. So there are a lot of programs at the College of Surgeons, and if we dissect these, there's even more. We figured out how to kind of put all these together, and they're going to be in different tracks. So these are the different programs and all the pieces that are in the different tracks. And if you look on your programs, there's a color-coded square rectangle that has these things, and this is what they stand for: adult NISQIP, the children's programs, the metabolic and bariatric surgery programs, cancer, geriatric, and the surgical spectrum. If we go back to this, you can see that the top three are very programmatic: adult, children's, and bariatric surgery. Cancer, under the leadership of Dr. Heidi Nelson, who has really championed this and put this together with all of the pieces in the cancer programs, has their track, and this is really expanded from last year. Geriatric surgery, which is again the new program, and so I would encourage you, if you're at a hospital that takes care of older adults, to go listen to those things, to those sessions, and to see the 30 new standards that have been released as of yesterday about what hospitals should have in place to take care of older adults. And then the surgical spectrum. So there was a whole bunch of other things that we couldn't have 73 different tracks, but the surgical spectrum has things from trauma, from the surgeon-specific registry, from Strong for Surgery, from improving surgical care and recovery, to things from the DC office and the policy relevant stuff, the Red Book, and a number of other programs that are in development, including high-risk GI, vascular, thoracic, emergency surgery, and rural surgery. So you can see that this is very, very comprehensive. Again, you can't be at all places at once, but knowing how this is organized, I think, can help. This year, one of the other expansions is that we have more trainees than we've ever had. And this is an important thing for us because the next generations of people doing quality, leading quality, need to be included, inculcated, trained, discussed, be in the discussions. And so we have the seventh track, which is the Quality Improvement Principles track. And it's obviously for everybody, but it was designed for people who just want to get the basics in place. And so the Quality Improvement Principles track, these are all the track leaders, so thank you to them. The Quality Improvement Principles track has these pieces. So how to use the Red Book. The Red Book is a manual on quality and safety. Overcoming barriers, organizational change management, leading change, communication and teamwork. All the things that all of the people who do this day in, day out, I think we live it, we see it, we have to deal with these things. But this is a course that really gets down to the basic and fundamentals. If you are a seasoned veteran, you're always invited because your experience will add to the richness of the discussion. So this is the Quality Improvement Principles track. General sessions. So while everyone's in the breakouts, every so often there's a general session while everyone comes back into this room. And topics were selected from your comments about what do you want to hear. If you're in a children's program, if you're in a bariatric program, if you're in rural or if you're in an urban center, what type of things do you want to hear? So, leadership. Do we need more leaders? And the answer is yes. We need leaders. We don't necessarily need all the same type of leaders, but in this session we'll talk about leadership and how you can lead from wherever you are. Value-based surgery. Increasingly, quality is going to be added or expanded into value. And so there's a number of sessions talking about value. I'll talk about an endeavor that we're doing at the college in a little bit. We have a great keynote, which I'll tell you in the next slide or so, about empathy and the culture of caring. Opiates, it's a huge crisis. It's continuing to be a crisis. We need to have some answers. And so that is a general session. And this is a huge one, communicating with patients. We know that there are a number of quality metrics coming down the play. We know that just whether there's a quality metric or not, that this is really important as we're taking care of patients. So that is. Finally, we have a collection of important topics for quality and safety and value in surgery. And these sessions are on Saturday and Sunday, and it addresses ethical care, standardization, case review, PROs, burnout, wellness, these types of things. So we tried to make a very, very kind of comprehensive, wide spectrum breakout choices, as well as things in the general session. Our keynote speaker is Dr. Rana Audish, and Dr. Audish is a doctor. She is a critical care doctor, internal medicine boarded and pulmonary critical care boarded. She is the director of pulmonary hypertension at Henry Ford Hospital. She's the director of care experience of the $6 billion, 24,000 person organization. And she's going to speak to us as a doctor, but she's also going to speak to us as a patient. And I'll let her tell you her story, but it is incredibly inspiring, and I think it's very uplifting, and it's a huge lesson for us to hear because she has the experience both from the patient side as well as the doctor side. So I want you to see if you can stare at this dot. Do you see this black dot in the middle? Stare at the dot. Think of the 4 words. All right, I'm going to do something, but keep on staring at the dot. Keep on staring at the dot. Now look away. Did the picture look different? It should have. It should have gone from some kind of color to black and white. If you want to know the reason for this, this is not a neurology conference, so I have no idea why this happens. But the point of this is that when we are innovating, when we're doing improvement, when we're doing change, it's sometimes good to try to look at things or even to do things differently. And this idea of looking at and doing things differently is for us as well at the college. So there are 3 things that I want to kind of call out. There's a lot of things that we're going to do differently, but these are 3 things that I think are very important. One is that we can look at how we evaluate and measure and think about quality maybe a little differently than we have. So the 2 points are doing no harm versus making patients better. If you look at a lot of our, not ours, but all registries, it's really about doing no harm. And there's nothing wrong with that. But doing no harm really collects all the pieces of no wrong site infection, no retained foreign body, no SSI, no CLABSI, no CAUTI, no VTE, no VAP, none of those things. And so all of these things are things in the category of doing no harm. And we shouldn't. We shouldn't take somebody and harm them, so it's doing no harm. But that's different than making patients better. And so there are other outcomes that are important to patients. And so we really need to focus that on our next phase of what we're doing for quality. We don't want to have any complications. We don't want to have any remissions. But now how do we make the patients better? This is what we're going to do with patient-reported outcomes. Now, patient-reported outcomes are the outcomes that the patients tell us about. Now, it might be like Yelp sometimes where the ends are like you're not going to pay attention to that, but we're going to really look at how the patients view what's happening and tell us how they're feeling. And so whether it's patient-reported outcomes or patient-reported experiences, this is going to be the next foray of the registries from the College of Surgeons. A number of you probably participated in the pilot from NSQIP where data were collected. This is going to be advanced. We are starting a project in the ambulatory setting because we do not collect very much in terms of SSI or mortality or whatnot, and we shouldn't in the ambulatory setting. But so how do we measure quality? We're going to start doing this there. We're going to start to ask if people want to start doing this on a volunteer basis, and then we're going to slowly ramp this in. So patient-reported outcomes and looking at quality in addition to no harm, but important things for the patient is a way we're going to look at things differently. Secondly, we're going to do this with some science, and we're going to do this with some numbers. So we can get a calculator to predict differently, albeit better. So everyone is probably familiar with the NSQIP risk calculator. I was actually, I told you I was in Australia looking for koala. No, actually I was at a bourbon bar. And some anesthesiologist came up to me and said, we love the NSQIP risk calculator. It helps us predict the risk of the patients. And so these things are very important, and it's important for us to develop these things so that they're even more useful than they currently are. So let me take this. This is going to be released, and if you're in the bariatric program and you want more details of this, you can go to the informational table. They have demonstrations of this, but I'll show you the nuts and bolts of it. There's a calculator. You put in the risk factors of the patient. We can tell, this is the no harm information. We can tell what the rates of predicted rate of death, any complications, serious complications, leak, bleed, all the things that we don't want to happen, so we do not harm the patient. Good. Okay, great. But the patient really wants, like, am I going to lose weight? Is my BMI going to come down? So part of this calculator is that finally we can have, with data, with over 1 million patients of data, from over 800 centers for over 80 to 90% of the care in bariatric surgery in this country, where this comes from, this is what we can predict, their weight loss, and for the different operations. But can we do more? And yes, we can. We can look at even their comorbidity. So can we also predict the resolution of things like hypertension, hyperlipidemia, GERD, diabetes? And so this is what we're talking about. Just in addition to the no harm, can we make them better from these things? And so we're starting to move in that direction, and we're going to continue to move in direction and how we're looking at quality differently. Finally, with the help of some of our leaders in the bariatric community, PROs in the bariatric patients is coming soon, and we're going to invite all of the hospitals that are participating in the bariatric program to start collecting PROs so we can help the patients even further. The third thing to look at things differently is that improving quality includes education and learning. So new for this is that, can we get CME for quality improvement? Can we get continuing medical education credits for quality improvement? And maybe you don't need the hours and for whatever reason, but this is just in principle, a very important thing to merge the idea of quality improvement and to merge the idea of education. So offering CME for semi-annual report review, and it just can't be reviewing it, but it's really trying to learn and educate yourself from the report. We're going to start this off in 3 programs: adult, children, and bariatric. But the idea is that, what are the things when we review a report that we learn, that we're educated about, right? That's why we look at the report. Oh, I didn't realize that our SSI was up in this thing. I'm going to drill down. Oh, I learned it's the emergency operations that Cliff does, and whatever. What are we going to do? What's our plan of attack for improving our SSI rate or our readmission rate or improve our PRO, whatever it is? And so when we learn from in the context of QI, this is what the CME folks are giving us credit for. And we should, because this is real life learning. This is iterative learning and the application of that knowledge to patient care. And so this is this kind of merging of the ideas of education, formal education and learning, and quality improvement on the front lines. So this is looking at things different and, I think, much better. So details will be available, more details in August. So while some things do change, some things do remain the same. And a significant part of the conference design is for networking and sharing. People seem to like the receptions. Last year, I think, got the highest amount of compliments for a reception, and so we took what we learned from last year, kind of add to it this year. This gives the ability to socialize and schmooze and meet and greets. So this year, this is what we're having. We've added another night of receptions. So Friday evening, there's these program socials. So it's in the Marriott Hotel. It starts right after the last session this afternoon. And there are some special programmatic things, and there's one for everybody. But what's very important is that everyone is welcome in any social. So just go back and forth between all of them and meet as many people as you can. everyone has their story, everyone has their experience. Meet as many people as you can. On Saturday is what we will call the welcome reception. It's at Nationals Park. Do not worry if you want to be cold. There's indoor stuff, and if you want to be hot and sweat, there's outdoor stuff. The buses will leave the hotels at about 6 p.m., but it should be a fun time. I haven't been there, but they tell me it's a beautiful, beautiful stadium, and it'll be a lot of fun. On Sunday is the abstract poster social. It's from 5:30 to 7:30 here. It's on the first floor. And again, we had record numbers of abstracts, and we have some really great posters as well. There are abstract winners. There are not 600 abstract winners. We had 600 abstracts. But these are 9 winners, and so I want to call attention to these folks because the competition was very stiff. We had a whole bunch of people grading these, but you can see in these 9 areas, peds, cancer, trainees, adult NISQIP, and so forth. These are the winners. We will call them out later, but these are the winners. Now, quality. As we look at quality and we define quality, there's a lot of words that we use for quality. But what's really important is that while the College of Surgeons is the College of Surgeons of North America, of here kind of locally, it is really a global issue. And so for the past almost decade, we've always had the international scholars. And so we get a lot of applications for this international scholarship, where we have a few people come from international sites to attend not just this conference, but then we help them visit other places in the United States so that suddenly communication and discussions and learning can happen across the board. So we have three international scholars, Dr. Alam, Dr. Lorenzon, and Dr. Okima from Bangladesh, Italy, and Kenya. And so if you see them, please shake their hand, welcome them, learn what they do. Dr. Alam is a pediatric surgeon, Dr. Lorenzon is a surgical oncologist, and Dr. Okima is a general surgeon. So please welcome them. This idea of global surgery is increasingly important and meaningful for the College of Surgeons. And I want to take some time right now to talk about Operation Giving Back, because I don't think enough people know about or participate in Operation Giving Back. This is led by the medical director, Gurma Tafara at the College of Surgeons. And I just want to read to you the mission. The mission of Operation Giving Back is to leverage the passion, the skills, and the humanitarian ethos of the surgical community to effectively meet the needs of the medically underserved. And so this is what the college does. This is not in DC or Los Angeles or Chicago. This is in the world. And Dr. Tafara leads this. They're going to have some sessions here, and they have some internationally renowned speakers coming to that. So if you at all want to hear this or you're just curious about it, please attend these sessions to let you know more what's going on. So one thing about surgeons, one thing about surgery is the precision, right? Everyone says like, oh, they did it like a surgeon, with surgical precision. And that's how surgeons are known largely in society. But what we don't recognize is kind of the humanities aspect, the artistic, or surgeons in the arts. And one thing about working at the College of Surgeons that's really amazing is our archives. We can go into the archives and see records from Codman. Bingo, anybody? Codman from 100 years ago and whatnot. And so we can, there's artwork down there. There's pictures that people have painted and whatnot. And there's poetry. And I am reminded too frequently from Dr. Hoyt that he was an English major, and he regales me in prose all the time. And so I thought I would share some poetry. And this is a little off base for a quality and safety conference, but I want to share some poetry, but it is apropos to quality and safety. I just want to remind people of terminology of poetry. Trochee means accented syllable followed by an unaccented syllable. So surgeon, nurses, and not so much anesthesia, but surgeon and nurses. So I want to go through a poem. There once was a busy surgeon from Nantucket who resected big cancers by the bucket. But payments went down, he felt helpless and frowned, and all he could say was just, I got to learn more about Thrive. So that was a bad way to introduce a very serious topic. Thrive, ACS Thrive. Thrive stands for Transforming Healthcare Resources to Increase Value and Efficiency. This is a project that the college is partnering with the Harvard Business School, the Institute for Strategy and Competitiveness. If you've heard of Michael Porter, this is his institute. And together, the idea is to promote implementable solutions for value-based surgical care. We are hearing over and over again, value-based care, value-based care, value, value, value. Like, what is it and how do we do it? And so the college, with its 100 years of quality improvement and measurement and verification and accreditation, figured out, all right, we need to have an expert on the economic side, on the business side. And so we decided to try to work with Harvard Business School, and this collaboration came about. So it's called ACS Thrive. So this is going to be one of those things, all right, you can find this online, but if you know that there's something called ACS Thrive, you can follow that later. So we've had quality, Codman, and all of the stuff that we do in the college. And when we look at quality, it's the care and outcomes that matter to the patient. We've talked about that. But if we look at the value equation of quality and cost, cost is the cost to achieve the care and outcomes. And so that's what we get for the value piece. Now, last year, Bruce Hall talked about BPCI, the bundle payments for care improvement. And you can see that the target price for this was about $20,000. And this was for the hip replacement procedures. And each one of these is a patient, and you can see the line there. And if you can't read what the colors are, these are what they are. You can see that the index admit, the durable medical equipment, and the pro fees, and all that stuff. Now, what's really important is that we want the green space to be larger than the red space, if possible. And so how do we minimize the red areas? We do these things. We look at materials, we look at optimization, we look at protocols, we do all of these things. Liza Wick from UCSF is doing the Bowel Colectomy bundle, and these are not a full year's worth of data, but it looks very much the same. And the ideas to improve this is very much the same. And basically, it's that bottom bullet of find your opportunities, find your problems, fix them. Oftentimes, it calls for redesign, thinking a new way of doing this, which is why value-based surgery is so great, is that it allows us to look at what we're doing and potentially redesign and rethink how we're doing things. And this is a huge part of Thrive, is that with that in context, how do we do this and what we're doing better? Now, it might take a lot of the things that we already know about, commitment, teamwork, standardization, all those things, and we use the Red Book to go into places, and we can score places on these, and this is a pretty high-scoring hospital on these metrics. But it takes doing it, and it takes data, and it takes the transparency of the data to do this, both for us as the providers and as well as to the patients. The denominator has always been kind of confusing for most everyone. It's like, what's the difference between charge, cost, and price? And I won't go into it largely, but if there's a charge or an asking price, but all the other prices, and the prices you can see in green, the price is actually paid by various private payers. And if we knew our own internal production costs, what does it cost to do a colectomy or to replace a hip, we can start to understand better what we're doing and where we need to potentially improve and what the targets would be. So if our internal production cost in blue here at the arrow is this high, then it costs too much to do a hip, and if we get paid somewhere lower, we need to do something. If we worked on things and if we kind of got standardization and we used our data to do improvement and we were much more streamlined and we had better throughput of our patients and we got it to here, that would be much better. So this is a piece that largely escapes us. And so part of this project is to really figure out what are internal production costs, and can we get it accurately, and how can we get it standardized and consistent when we're doing things? Is it going to take redesign? Is it going to take the way we do things to be done things a little differently? And so time-driven activity-based costing is going to be a part of this project, TDABC, and it's something that we can learn how to do and employ it, and depending on how or where, we can do it differently, but the idea is that we can get our internal production costs. The strategic agenda is very much outlaid in Porter's book, or what we're doing is that how do we get our group together around a clinical activity? How do we measure the outcomes and cost? How do we get our reimbursement models aligned with that? How do we integrate and coordinate our care across phases? How do we do it across geography so that it's in Los Angeles and in DC and in Chicago and in Iowa and in everywhere in between? And how do we optimize and how do we utilize the technology platform that is here that we keep on hearing about and really put it into place so that it helps us instead of making us type in notes at 10 p.m. So this is the strategic agenda, and clearly it'll mean a lot for the stakeholders, none more than the patients, because care will get better. And this is really putting the patients first. This value-based system is putting the patients first. I invite you to continue to learn more about ACS Thrive, because I think that this is going to be really helpful for us in our movement of quality and safety and reliability. You've often seen, I've shown this slide a couple times in the past, but there are three types of hospitals that we generally see in all of our programs across the college when we visit a hospital or parts of a hospital. There's the red line where their data kind of goes up and down, up and down, up and down. If they're down, they say, oh, we're not going to do anything because probably the next report will go up. And they just kind of, it's like that sine wave. There's the yellow hospital where they get their gains and they standardize. I think that's a lot of hospitals where you kind of go to there like, this is the way we do it. That's great, but it's not as good as the green hospital. The green hospital that standardizes, then looks at the data, sees where they can improve, looks at kind of some gaps there where they can improve, they work on it, and then they innovate some more. And they standardize, and they innovate, and they standardize and innovate. So they can continue to get better. And this is what we are shooting for. I think I've shown this slide probably to 1,000 people. And there's only been one surgeon who told me, like, I kind of like being yellow. But other than that, we need to strive for being green. We need to be that green hospital. We need to innovate. We need to land a man on the moon. So when I was talking earlier about being an anniversary, of course I was talking not just about bingo, but about this ability of Apollo 11 to land people on the moon. And if you read the story and you like all the great things that happened there, it's really an amazing story. And there's a lot of stuff going on in DC. And it's actually tomorrow, July 20th, 50 years ago that this happened. I know most of you were probably not alive when it happened, but this is really a great thing. But what I really find, one of the things that I find very interesting is the speech that happened 8 years before that. And this is that very famous speech that you've probably heard the first sentence of when JFK said, I believe this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal of putting a man on the moon. And this was at a time when there was no way that anyone in their right mind would have said this scientifically. They tried to get someone up there. They kind of went around the Earth. It didn't last as long as they thought it would. They had to bring them back down. They've been in space for maybe 5 minutes. And to get to the moon, land on the moon, and bring somebody back was infinitely more complex, infinitely more difficult. And yet this is what he said some years before they actually did that amazing achievement. Unless you believe in conspiracy and it was just not there, they did it in Hollywood. But I don't think so. But if you dissect this out, there are some really important words in here that I think will resonate with basically everyone in this room. He set a goal. He told what was going to be needed was commitment and dedication and discipline. He went even further to say what's going to be needed is scientific and technical prowess. Needed resources of materials and facilities. We needed research and development because the knowledge at that time in 1961 was not there to get to where they wanted to be. He was a realist, and he said kind of like what we think every day, probably when we're starting a new project, that this is going to be really difficult and probably expensive. But it was because it was important and for everybody. And so I think that for us in this room, and I'm joking around a little earlier, but this is absolutely serious, that when we put our patients first, these are the things that we really should be thinking about day in, day out, as we take care of our patients directly, or as we're the quality group helping people take care of patients directly, or if we're the administrators helping that people who help the people who take care, whatever it is, if we're involved in this, and this is our world, this is what we have to do because it's important for everybody, and putting our patients first is why we're here. So, let me finish by thanking everybody. I want to thank the speakers and moderators who are going to spend their time with us. We do not pay people to come here. They do it out of their own free will, and they are sharing their knowledge with us. Talk to them. They are amazing resources. The program committee, the track leaders, thank them. I'd like to thank the ACS staff. There's 1 million staff here from the ACS. Each of also the quality program people in the cancer program and the bariatric programs. Meeting conventions, the DC office, member services, education, and integrated communications, all the great signs you see here and in the streets are all the work that are done by the staff. Finally, all of you are amazing. Thank you for coming, spending your time here. It's not easy to come when it's 170 degrees outside and to come into the city when the planes don't arrive because of lightning and whatever, but thank you for coming and spending a few days with us. So one more thing. Who remembers the 4 words? I. You will never forget these 4 words. All right. The staff said this would not be funny, and so I have to do this. All right, well, welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, so we would like to really get on with the meeting, and so the first session, the first general session, as I said, is on leadership. There is no probably more well-known, better leader in surgery than our moderator, who you should definitely talk to, is Dr. David Hoyt. Dr. Hoyt hails from Pennsylvania. He's been the chair of surgery at Irvine. He's a leading trauma surgeon who helped develop the trauma verification program. He's a leader in every sense of the word. He leads leaders. So please welcome Dr. Hoyt to the stage.